Buddhism wisdom. Have you ever wondered why salt holds such deep significance across cultures, religions, and ancient traditions? Why do Zen monks and spiritual seekers around the world still use salt for purification and transformation? Is it just a simple mineral, or does it carry a hidden power that science and psychology are only beginning to understand? Today, we are diving into the fascinating mystery of salt, its spiritual influence, its scientific properties, and its psychological effects on the human mind. More importantly, you'll discover how you can use salt to bring peace, clarity, and transformation into your life. And here's the best part. Stay with me until the end, because I will share with you a simple yet powerful Zen method using salt that can cleanse negativity, shift your energy, and create harmony in your home. Are you ready to explore this ancient wisdom? Let's begin. From the earliest civilizations, salt has held an almost mythical status. In ancient Egypt, it was used in rituals to purify both the body and the soul, ensuring a safe journey into the afterlife. Greeks and Romans considered it so valuable that it was used as currency, giving rise to the word salary. But beyond its economic and culinary importance, salt carries a deep spiritual and philosophical significance, particularly in Buddhism and Zen traditions, where it is seen as a symbol of purification, wisdom, and the nature of suffering itself. Buddhism teaches that suffering is an inherent part of existence, but the way we experience it depends entirely on the vastness of our minds. This fundamental truth is at the heart of Buddhist wisdom, and it is beautifully illustrated in one of the Buddha's most profound analogies. Imagine placing a spoonful of salt into a small cup of water. The water instantly becomes undrinkable, bitter, overpowering, completely altered by the presence of that small amount of salt. Now, take that same spoonful and pour it into a vast, serene lake. The salt disperses, almost imperceptibly, lost within the expanse of water. The taste of the lake remains unchanged, pure and refreshing. The salt itself has not changed. In quantity or nature, it remains exactly the same. The only difference is the capacity of the water to absorb it. They will come uninvited in various forms: loss, disappointment, illness, failure, uncertainty. But what determines our experience of these hardships is not the suffering itself, but the space within which we hold it. A narrow, rigid mind experiences suffering like the small cup. Every hardship, no matter how small, feels unbearable, consuming, inescapable. On the other hand, an expansive, open mind experiences the same hardship as the vast lake. It absorbs suffering without being overwhelmed, maintaining its clarity and peace. The suffering is still present, but it does not define or distort the entire experience of life. This concept aligns perfectly with the Zen understanding of Nan, attachment, the mind that clings tightly to its pain, replaying it, magnifying it, making it the center of its existence. Is like the small cup, easily overwhelmed, but the mind that cultivates space, awareness, and perspective allows suffering to dissolve into the larger flow of life. It does not mean that suffering ceases to exist. Rather, it loses its ability to control and dictate our inner state. Imagine two people experiencing the same external hardship, a sudden financial loss, the end of a cherished relationship, a personal failure. One person, locked in a constricted mindset, reacts with panic, anger, despair. Their entire mental space becomes flooded with negativity, drowning in frustration and helplessness. The other person, possessing a broader awareness, acknowledges the pain, but does not become consumed by it. They understand that life is vast, that circumstances change, that suffering is just one wave in the great ocean of existence. The event itself is the same for both individuals, but their experience of it is entirely different. This ability to expand our awareness is not an abstract concept. It is a skill that can be cultivated through meditation, mindfulness, and deep introspection. We learn to create space within our consciousness. Meditation, in particular, teaches us to sit with our suffering rather than react impulsively to it. Instead of allowing pain to dictate our emotions and actions, we observe it as if it were a cloud passing through the sky or a wave rolling across the surface of a vast lake. The wave may be turbulent for a moment, but the lake itself remains undisturbed in its depth. The mind, when trained to be expansive, functions in the same way. Instead of shrinking in the face of suffering, it opens. Instead of resisting pain, it accepts. And in this acceptance, suffering loses its grip. Zen masters often speak of the power of letting go, not as a form of denial, but as a way of loosening the mind's obsessive attachment to pain. When we let go of resistance, suffering transforms from an unbearable burden into something fluid, something that moves through us rather than defining us. A famous Zen teaching captures this idea perfectly. A disciple once asked his master, "How do I find peace?" The master replied, "Let go of what disturbs you." The disciple, puzzled, asked, "But what if I cannot let go?" The master smiled and said, "Then let go of the idea that you must let go." This is the paradox of awareness. When we believe we must force ourselves to let go of suffering, we create a new attachment. The attachment to Nan. Attachment, instead, true expansion of the mind comes when we stop grasping, when we simply allow life to be as it is, without rigid expectations or resistance. In doing so, suffering dissolves naturally, just as salt disappears into the vastness of a lake. Throughout history, many great Zen masters and Buddhist teachers have embodied this wisdom in their own lives. Consider the story of Unhth, the Vietnamese Zen master, who faced exile from his homeland during the Vietnam War. Instead of succumbing to despair, he transformed his suffering into compassion, creating a global movement for peace and mindfulness. His ability to see beyond personal pain, to expand his perspective beyond his own suffering, allowed him to carry his hardships without being destroyed by them. His mind, like the Great Lake, was vast enough to hold both sorrow and serenity. The same principle applies to our daily lives. If we view every inconvenience, every insult, every disappointment through the lens of a small cup, we will constantly find ourselves drowning in bitterness. But if we cultivate the spaciousness of a lake through self-reflection, meditation, and the conscious practice of letting go, life's challenges will lose their power to shake us. Even neuroscience supports this ancient wisdom. Studies have shown that mindfulness meditation physically alters the brain, strengthening areas associated with emotional regulation and reducing activity in regions linked to fear and stress. In essence, meditation trains the mind to become like the vast lake, capable of holding experience without being overworked. One of the most beautiful aspects of this teaching is its accessibility. It does not require wealth, status, or extraordinary talent, only a willingness to shift perspective. It is a lesson that can be applied in any moment, in any situation. Next time you feel consumed by anger, sadness, or frustration, pause and ask yourself, am I being the small cup or the vast lake? Am I allowing this suffering to dominate my entire being? Or can I create space for it without letting it define me? The more we practice this, the more natural it becomes. Over time, we develop an inner resilience, a deep knowing that no matter what arises, we have the capacity to hold it. Suffering no longer drowns us because we no longer resist it. Instead, we accept it, allow it, and ultimately, let it dissolve. This is the essence of Zen. It is not about escaping life's hardships, but about expanding so vastly that they no longer imprison us. Like the salt in the water, suffering does not have to disappear. It simply becomes absorbed into the vastness of our awareness, and in that vastness, we find freedom. Throughout Buddhist history, monks have recognized the power of salt, using it in purification rituals to cleanse spaces, ward off negative energy, and prepare the mind for meditation. In Japanese Zen practice, salt is often sprinkled at the entrances of temples to create a protective barrier, ensuring that only purified energy enters the sacred space. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks incorporate salt into rituals before deep meditation, acknowledging its ability to absorb and neutralize negative influences. Even in Zen gardens, where the arrangement of rocks and sand is meticulously designed to embody simplicity and harmony, the presence of salt minerals is believed to contribute to the alignment of energy, fostering an atmosphere of deep tranquility. Salt has been revered for its purifying properties across cultures and through history. But why does it hold such power? Is it merely an ancient superstition, a symbolic representation of cleansing and protection, or is there a deeper, more tangible force at play? Modern science suggests that salt is not just a spiritual metaphor for purification, but a physical agent capable of altering the energy around us in measurable ways. Its crystalline structure, chemical properties, and interaction with the environment provide a compelling explanation for why it has been used for centuries in rituals of cleansing, protection, and renewal. At the molecular level, salt is unique. Its structure allows it to absorb moisture, trap airborne particles, and even influence electrical charges in the air. This explains why it has been used for millennia to preserve food, preventing decay and bacterial growth. Salt's ability to draw out impurities extends beyond the physical realm into the energetic. Ancient practitioners intuitively understood this, using salt to cleanse spaces, ward off negative influences and create a sense of balance. But far from being mere superstition, modern research has provided substantial evidence that salt has an active role in influencing human well-being, both physically and psychologically. One of the most fascinating aspects of salt's purifying power lies in its ability to release negative ions. These microscopic, electrically charged particles are abundant in nature, especially in environments such as waterfalls, forests, and oceans. When people spend time in these places, they often report feeling rejuvenated, clear-minded, and emotionally lighter. This is not merely a psychological effect. It is a direct physiological response to an increase in negative ions in the air. The science behind negative ions was first explored in depth in the 1930s when Clarence Hansen, a pioneering researcher in atmospheric physics, discovered that these tiny particles could significantly improve mental and physical health. His studies found that exposure to negative ions increased oxygen flow to the brain, enhanced serotonin production, and reduced cortisol levels, leading to lower stress, improved mood, and heightened mental clarity. This explains why salty ocean air, filled with naturally occurring negative ions, has a noticeably calming and revitalizing effect on the human body. But how does salt generate these beneficial ions? The answer lies in its interaction with humidity. When salt absorbs moisture from the air, a process of ionization occurs, releasing negatively charged ions into the environment. This is the same principle behind Himalayan salt lamps, which many believe create a more balanced and harmonious atmosphere by neutralizing positive ions, particles associated with pollution, electronic devices, and general environmental stresses. Studies have shown that excessive exposure to positive ions can contribute to feelings of fatigue, irritability, and even depression, while environments rich in negative ions promote relaxation, focus, and a heightened sense of well-being. This brings us to an interesting connection between salt and the spiritual traditions that have long utilized it for purification. If negative ions have such a profound impact on mood and energy levels, it is entirely plausible that ancient practitioners, monks, and mystics sensed this effect long before science could explain it. Many Buddhist and Zen rituals involve sprinkling salt in space before meditation or at the entrance of a temple to create a protective barrier against unwanted energies. In Japan, sumo wrestlers throw salt into the ring before a match, a practice rooted in Shinto beliefs that aligns with the idea of neutralizing harmful forces. In Tibetan Buddhism, monks use salt in purification ceremonies before deep meditation, ensuring that the energetic field around them is cleansed of distractions and disturbances. What is remarkable is that science now provides validation for what spiritual traditions have long observed. Salt not only absorbs and purifies on a symbolic level, but also actively alters the energetic and physical environment in a way that enhances human well-being. When negative ions are released, they attach to pollutants and airborne toxins, causing them to become heavy and fall to the ground, effectively clearing the air. This is why environments rich in negative ions, such as salt caves or coastal regions, have been linked to improved respiratory function, reduced allergy symptoms, and even accelerated recovery from illness. Another compelling phenomenon related to salt's energy clearing properties is its impact on electromagnetic fields, EMFs. In today's digital world, we are constantly surrounded by electronic devices, smartphones, laptops, Wi-Fi routers that emit electromagnetic radiation. While research is still ongoing, some scientists suggest that prolonged exposure to EMFs can lead to increased stress, disrupted sleep patterns, and decreased overall vitality. Some holistic health practitioners believe that salt, particularly in the form of large salt crystals, can help mitigate the effects of EMFs by neutralizing excess positive ions generated by electronic devices. This may explain why people report feeling more relaxed and focused when working in spaces that incorporate Himalayan salt lamps or natural salt elements. Salt's relationship with water further enhances its mystical and scientific significance. In Buddhist philosophy, water represents the mind, fluid, adaptable, capable of reflecting clarity or becoming clouded with agitation. Just as a calm lake mirrors the sky above, a tranquil mind reflects wisdom and awareness. But if impurities are introduced, whether in the form of suffering, distractions, or negative energies, the water loses its stillness. Salt, in its purifying capacity, has long been associated with restoring balance to both water and the mind. This is why many cultures practice saltwater cleansing rituals, from washing one's hands in salt water before prayer to submerging oneself in the sea for renewal. In Zen teachings, the analogy of the spoonful of salt in a cup versus a vast lake takes on an even deeper significance when viewed in the context of purification. Just as an expansive mind is less disturbed by suffering, a purified mind is less perfected by external negativity. When we cultivate inner clarity through meditation, awareness, and spiritual discipline, we develop a natural ability to repel toxicity, both physical and energetic. In this way, salt becomes not just a substance but a metaphor for spiritual resilience. This connection between salt and mindfulness is further emphasized in practices like mindful eating. Buddhist monks engage in the practice of oryoki, a highly ritualized form of eating that involves deep awareness of every bite. Salt, in its fundamental role as a preserver and enhancer of flavor, serves as a reminder of the importance of balance. Too much disrupts harmony, too little leaves an absence. This mirrors the middle path taught by the Buddha, which encourages neither indulgence nor deprivation, but a measured, intentional approach to all aspects of life. Even in modern therapeutic applications, salt's cleansing properties are being explored in innovative ways. Halotherapy, or salt therapy, has gained popularity in recent years as a natural remedy for respiratory conditions, skin disorders, and stress relief. Patients sit in specially designed salt caves or rooms where finely ground salt particles are dispersed into the air, mimicking the effects of natural salt-rich environments. This practice, rooted in centuries-old traditions, is now backed by scientific research showing that inhaling microscopic salt particles can help clear mucus, reduce inflammation, and promote overall lung health. Ultimately, salt Salt's power extends far beyond its role as a simple mineral. It is a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, the scientific and the spiritual, the ancient and the modern. It embodies purification, resilience, and balance, reminding us that just as salt preserves and protects, we too can cultivate an inner state of clarity and harmony that shields us from negativity, whether through the science of negative ions or the sacred traditions of Buddhist and Zen practice. Salt continues to reveal itself as an essential force of transformation, one that invites us to cleanse not only our external environments, but also the landscapes of our minds. Salt lamps, particularly those made from Himalayan salt, function in a similar way. As they interact with humidity in the air, they release negative ions that neutralize harmful, positive ions which are emitted by electronic devices and pollutants. This process creates an environment that supports mental clarity, emotional stability, and overall well-being. In many ways, the ancient belief in salt's purifying properties is now being validated by modern science. In Japan, sumo wrestlers follow a tradition that blends science with spiritual practice. Before entering the ring, they throw handfuls of salt onto the ground, a ritual meant to purify the space and drive away malevolent forces. This act has its roots in both Shinto and Buddhist traditions, reinforcing the idea that salt has the power to cleanse and protect. Similarly, in various Buddhist cultures, salt is used to prepare a space before meditation, ensuring that only positive energy remains. A well-known Zen story further illustrates the wisdom hidden within salt. A young monk, struggling with overwhelming emotions, sought guidance from his master. Sensing the monk's distress, the master handed him a handful of salt and instructed him to mix it into a glass of water. The young monk took a sip and immediately grimaced. "It is too salty," he said. The master smiled and said, "Suffering is like this salt. The amount does not change, but the way you experience it depends on the size of your mind. If you make yourself small like this glass of water, suffering will be unbearable. But if you make yourself vast like this lake, suffering will lose its power over you." This lesson is at the core of Zen practice. The goal is not to eliminate suffering, an impossible task, but to expand our awareness so that suffering no longer consumes us. Just as salt can cleanse, purify, and balance, so too can our minds be trained to transform negativity into wisdom. This understanding extends beyond philosophy and into practical application. Many people today use simple salt rituals to cleanse their homes and minds. A widely practiced method involves placing a clear glass of salt water in a room to absorb negative energy. The process is simple yet deeply effective. One fills a glass with clean water, adds sea salt or Himalayan salt, and places it in a specific location, preferably where stress or tension often arises. After 24 hours, the water is observed. If it remains clear, the energy in the space is balanced. However, if it turns cloudy or murky, it indicates that negativity has been absorbed. By replacing the water regularly, the space gradually becomes lighter, calmer, and more harmonious. Many who practice this method report a noticeable shift in their environment. They describe feeling more at peace, experiencing fewer conflicts, and even sleeping better. This practice aligns with the Zen principle that external harmony begins with internal clarity. By purifying our surroundings, we simultaneously purify our minds. Salt teaches us one of the most essential lessons in Buddhism and Zen: the power of transformation. Life will always present challenges, hardships, and pain, but these do not have to define our experience. Just as salt can turn something bitter into something balanced, our minds can learn to transform suffering into wisdom. A Zen master once said, "The mind is everything. What you think, you become." If we dwell in negativity, we become consumed by it. But if we purify our thoughts and cultivate a vast open awareness, we can experience life with greater clarity, peace, and harmony. Through mindfulness, meditation, and simple practices such as salt cleansing rituals, we develop the ability to remain steady even in the face of adversity. The world around us may not change, but our perception of it can. And in the end, that is the true essence of Zen, not the elimination of suffering, but the expansion of the mind so that suffering no longer holds power over us. From ancient traditions to modern science, salt has always been more than just a simple mineral. It's a symbol of purification, balance, and transformation. Whether used in Buddhist rituals, to cleanse energy in scientific studies, to restore balance, or in Zen teachings as a reminder of wisdom and simplicity, its power is undeniable. So, the next time you reach for salt, remember that it carries centuries of hidden wisdom. And if negativity ever lingers in your home or heart, don't hesitate to try this simple Zen method. It might just shift your energy and bring harmony into your life. This brings us to the end of today's video. What are your thoughts on the power of salt? Share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Zen Buddhism Wisdom for more insightful content on Zen philosophy, mindfulness, and spiritual transformation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you